Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome to today's video. So we finally got the engine in the S4, so our single turbo setup is very well on the way, and I'm going to show you guys some clips of our first start, what else we have going on, and other things we've had to figure out once the engine was in the car. But before we do that, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. It really helps out. So let's get to it. Okay, so I'm about to show you the clip of our first start. And the first start definitely didn't go without any issues. So the first thing we did before we continued on to anything was prime the motor. So there's a few cranks with the spark plugs disconnected and the fuel off, just to make sure we didn't have any spark. We're just doing this so we have oil circulate through the entire engine and into the turbo, so we don't have a dry start in any place. We did this so that we have oil circulating through the entire engine and the turbo, so we don't have a dry start anywhere. After that, we went ahead and turned on the fuel and plugged in the spark plugs, which you can see here. And once we did that, we just went right back into the car, went ahead and tried to get it started. Battery was pretty low, but we do get a crank, as you can see here. After the crank, I thought everything was going really well until I looked under the engine and I saw a crap load of oil leaking out. So I immediately shut it off and then just got to work dismantling the front end just to see what the heck led us to this. And what we got was this that you're looking at here. So this is right by the oil filter on the driver's side of the upper oil pan. And what you're looking at right now is an oil pressure sender. This I'm using to run a secondary oil pressure gauge just to keep an eye on things. And this was probably my mistake because in this port, you can see near the back is the original oil pressure sender. That stays there, that's still working fine. Everything there is okay. Near the front, there was a plug there that once you remove, you could plug in another, thread in another oil pressure sender. And I went ahead and did that. It was correct thread pitch and all, but I think I over tightened it a bit, and what I had was a hairline crack at the top of the housing here, and I'll show you a picture of that. So with that crack there, I started thinking of ideas of how to fix it without having to pull the engine out. And my first idea was to weld it, and I went ahead and welded it shut. But what happened is this is cast aluminum, so it's a little porous. So when you weld it, it tends to spread really easily. So the puddle doesn't stay where you need it, and the heat dissipates quickly. And then once you get enough heat into it, it just starts melting through. So that was a mess, but I was able to get it welded shut. And then I plugged it back in, but I was still having a bit of a leak. And then once I removed the plug again, then I saw what the issue is, and it's the metal got really weak in that area, and it just broke off into pieces. So this right here that you see on top of the sender is one of the pieces that broke off that I had welded together. This is where that crack was, right above that. So I welded it, sanded it down, grinded it down, and everything was smooth. But the metal got much too weak, and as soon as I touched it with the screwdriver, it just started crumbling. So I removed this whole section here, and what we have here is something that someone on Instagram recommended to me. It's called Q-Bond. This isn't a permanent solution. I'm not going to leave this on permanently. I just want to make sure that the engine runs and everything's okay, and do a bit of testing, and then I'll go ahead and drop the upper oil pan and replace it with a new one, or new to me one, and that'll be the permanent solution. But for now, this has held up really well, and it's like rock hard. So you can see here, hitting it with that screwdriver, you can hear how hard that is. So that stuff's not going anywhere. So hopefully it lasts me a few runs, just so I can make sure everything's working right, and then I will drop the subframe and install another oil pan there. Okay, so now we're looking at the engine bay here, and it's all pretty much put together. As you can see, we have the front end back on, radiators mounted. There's no coolant in the car yet, and that's because, as you can see over there, the coolant bottle isn't there, the reservoir. The reason it's not there is because the reservoir would hit the downpipe on this side here. So we're gonna have to go with the bubble style coolant reservoir from, I think, an MK4 Golf up to, I think, the Audi A3, and a bunch of cars have them, but it's that little bubble style fluid reservoir that you see in a bunch of Audi, Volkswagen cars. So that's our first mod going on over there. You see the turbo. The turbo fits really well. You saw from before that we had to clearance the manifold, so there's about a 1/4 inch of space there, about an inch on the hot side, about an inch on the hot side, and on the hot side we're gonna add a turbo blanket in about a week or so. I'm just waiting for it in the mail. So that's perfect that we have that inch of clearance. It'll just clear the intake manifold there. So next we move on to the fuel system. So starting from the back, we have a Walboro 450, which I ran new lines to. So it's 3/8 line, -6 line, all the way to the front, where it's coming to the fuel filter, which you see right here. So fuel filter is this canister here. Then feeds into the fuel rail, which we have integrated engineering fuel rails on either side, and then comes back out here through this fuel pressure regulator. So this is one of the ones you could buy on eBay or Amazon for super cheap. So far it's held pressure fine. We'll see how it goes moving on. I did add another inline gauge just to double check, and it was spot on, and it's adjustable. So I mean, for the money, you can't go wrong. Okay, moving on from the fuel system, the next thing we had to modify was the PCV or venting system. So our PCV system stock sits right behind the intake manifold, and there's something else there right now. I don't know if you could see it, turbo. But because of that, we flipped our valve covers around, so passenger side on the driver's side and vice versa, so that we could have our breathing ports face forwards. And you could see here we have the OEM connectors running onto some -10 line, and that's running all the way here into this catch can. So you have to do the same for the line in the rear coming from that venting port. Run it under the intake manifold, that line coming right here, and that's going into the catch can as well. The catch can doesn't recirculate back in because there is no intake, so there is no way for it to recircle back in, so that's venting directly to atmosphere. And it's just both valve covers, which end up Ying right here, and they go into the catch can, as well as the port on the back, and that has its own line running into the catch can, all -10 hoses and fittings. One of the last things we have to get done is the intercooler piping. So we're running 3-inch pipe throughout the entire system. So hot side and cold side is all getting 3-inch. There's two different ways that people run these. It's the first one, they will take here and elbow towards the left, so towards the driver's side of the car, and they'll have the hot side going that way, come back around this way, and feed over and into the throttle body here. I don't like that because it crosses the entire engine, so it just looks out of place a bit. So what we're going to try to do here is run the hot side out of the turbo, out here, right past the oil fill cap, and then come straight down and down into the intercooler down here. So we're going to end up coming through here, just like we do with the front mount intercooler for the twin turbo setup. So again, just here, hard right, down, through, coming in here, and on the other side we're gonna just pretty much run it in reverse, but instead of the cold side running all the way up and over, we're actually going to try to feed it and have it come right here. So it'll block most of this here, but I think the pipe will clear. As you can see here, it's tight, but we can make it happen. So that's how it'll look pretty much. You can see here, that's the diameter of the pipe. It's pretty thick, but it'll save us time in the future if we decide to go with a bigger turbo and, you know, bigger power potential. It gives us the space to grow, which is nice. And also, I don't know if you guys noticed, but the entire harness for the car is actually sitting behind the false firewall here. The reason I did that is because I didn't want to run it under or behind the turbo, because I didn't want to melt any wires, just in case. With my luck, things would start burning and melting, so I didn't need that. So I elongated a few wires, most notably all the coil pack connectors as well as the injectors. All those had to be elongated because I wanted to run the harness through the back. You'll also have to probably tap into a few things, but it cleans up the engine bay a bit. So like, for example, my N75 is sitting back here, everything's sitting in the back cleans up the engine a bit, and all you have is the harness coming out and into its connectors. You don't see the big bulge of wires going everywhere. So you see we have an out here, right by the downpipe on the driver's side. We have an out right here, which is under where the fuel pressure regulator is. It's actually hidden really well. And then we have another out here right behind this downpipe, and an out where the original harness comes out through all the way over on the other side. Okay, so I'm gonna run into the car really quickly and then just give you guys another start. I'll put the microphone close to the turbo so you guys could hear that going, hopefully, but we'll see. But let's get it started. All right, so I want to thank you all for so I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate you guys just, tuning into all the videos and all the support I've gotten on YouTube and Instagram. I really appreciate it. Really helped me keep going forward with the build. Again, like I said earlier, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell icon, comment, whatever it be, ask me questions. I really appreciate everything I'm getting through. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.